It's hard to believe that it's been nearly 4 years since Audi first brought over a taste of forbidden fruit to America in the form of the RS6 Avant. Now, this vehicle was a big deal for enthusiasts because it finally gave you a performance family car, especially if money wasn't really a factor. Now, for 2024, Audi is looking to push the envelope even further with the introduction of this. This is the 2024 RS6 Avant Performance. And what it essentially does is it reduces the weight of this vehicle by about 20 pounds, and it also turns up the boost pressure on the engine to now deliver over 620 horsepower. So today we're actually out here back north of Portland, Oregon with the rest of the members of the Automotive Video Association, and the big question I went answered: has Audi managed to make an already appealing wagon even more enticing? Stay tuned to find out. Interestingly, it's also been about 5 years since we've actually had an AVA event. If you guys remember, we used to do this event with other YouTubers back in 2019. It kind of started in 2017, so it's really great to be back here just north of Portland in Ridgefield, Washington, with the rest of the members driving a bunch of really cool cars. So of course, we're going to start off with this vehicle, and this has to be one of my favorite cars that Audi has ever put out that is available in the US. It first came out back in 2021. For 2024, it's back. However, now we have only the performance variants of these cars, and because the changes are all centered around underneath the hood, let's go ahead and talk about that first. Now, when you pop the hood, you're going to find a wonderful peach of an engine. This is a 4-liter gasoline direct injection twin turbocharged double overhead cam V8 augmented with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. The boost pressure, Audi says they've turned up the wick. At least what I found online was a max boost pressure of around 38 PSI, which sounds a little crazy. It almost sounds like a typo. I'll have to double check with Audi if that's actually the correct number. But because of the increase in the boost pressure and the upgrades in the internals, we now have a total of 621 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. That's a 30 horsepower increase versus, again, the 2023 model, which still made a pretty impressive 591 horsepower. It all goes out through an 8-speed torque converter automatic that's built by ZF, which also includes launch control. The company's signature Quattro all-wheel drive system with that sport rear differential is going to be standard equipment. That's one of the beauties about Audis, is that all-weather grip, especially on this really crappy, gloomy, wet day here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, fuel economy, that is kind of the downside. You're looking at 14 in the city, 22 on the highway. This is obviously required to run on premium gas. It has a 19-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 300-ish miles of range on a full tank. Now, of course, with the reduction in weight and the increase in power, Audi claims this model should be good for 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. We actually got just over 3 seconds in the RS7 Performance when we had one back home to test for a full week. This car has a top speed of around 155 miles an hour, unless you spec in the carbon ceramic brakes, which will increase the top speed to around 174 miles an hour. As this car sits as well, it weighs in at just over 4,900 pounds. So again, it's no lightweight, but again, it is a big, long, mid-size wagon with a big twin-turbo V8 underneath the hood. But let's go ahead and close this hood and talk about the exterior styling. Now, first of all, this vehicle, I actually already thought it was a beautiful looking car when it first came out, and for 2024, it stays pretty much the same in terms of the design. This particular color that we're showing you is called Floret Silver Metallic. It's a $600 upcharge. It's kind of a bland color for me. If I was gonna get this car, I would get it in a much more bright color. You can see it's got the signature Audi corporate single frame grille with the black Audi logos, of course. It's got all gloss black with the hexagonal design theme here. You have a subtle RS6 badge here, along with the sensors for the radar cruise control. These are the full matrix style LED headlights. These are has their upgraded laser light technology, an LED daytime running light, LED turn signal. No LED fog lights on the vehicle. It does have all-weather lights, which are built into the headlights, which kind of act like a fog light. And then down here, you can see my test car for $7,600 also has the matte carbon package, so it includes the carbon fiber here, the carbon fiber here, the carbon fiber on the mirror caps, and then more carbon fiber and black accents throughout. It's a really sinister, mean-looking vehicle that still continues to turn a lot of heads out on the road. Which is why this is, again, one of the most desirable wagons that you're going to find out on the market here in the US. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see even more gorgeous proportions here. You're looking at a wheelbase of around 115.1 inches. Its overall length is around 196.7. If you can believe it, the sister vehicle, the RS7 Performance, which is technically a sportback sedan, is actually about an inch longer versus the RS6. I expected this to be longer, but it's not. But you can see with the wide body proportions, the fender or the wheel arch moldings, they come out a little further to make room for these massive 22-inch wheels. So these are the lighter weight forged wheels that are finished in a matte black. That also comes with the carbon package, the matte carbon package. It's wrapped in a 285 by 30 ZR22. So a very, very low profile tire. Make sure you don't hit any potholes in this thing. It's going to really easily kind of pop the wheel or bend the wheel, or pop the tire or bend the rim easily. But I love the way these wheels look. You have a massive you have a massive slotted rotor here. Of course, carbon ceramics are available. Those are a 10 piston caliper with a 16-inch front rotor. So again, you can upgrade to a carbon ceramic rotor, which would actually make the brakes even larger, I believe at 17 inches. You have an all-independent air suspension, and Audi also offers their fixed racing style sports suspension if you guys want, but I think the air suspension is going to give you the best balance between ride quality, of course, and the better handling. Now, as you can see here, the mirrors are power folding. They are covered in carbon. They're also electric, or they also have an integrated turn signal with cameras. Of course, you have a standard panoramic glass sunroof on this vehicle, which goes all the way into the rear seat area, which makes this thing have an even more bright and open cabin. I think it would look really good if you guys buy this vehicle and you get the windows tinted, but I also love the black trim that is included when you guys go for that matte carbon package as opposed to the chrome. Audi does offer the chrome if you guys prefer that with the silver accents. And then looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see the rear pretty much looks the same, but again, it's just such a beautiful looking car. I love the very subtle but mature and aggressive design cues here. You have that little subtle spoiler, you have a window wiper, you have lots of black trim here with the black Audi rings, you have the RS6 badging there that's also blacked out. Full LED taillights with the sequential style turn signals on the front and on the rear. And then you can see down here with the matte carbon package, you also get the carbon fiber down here. And my test car also has the Audi Sport exhaust system for an extra $1,000. They said that they made it a little louder this year. Let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. Now, aside from the low rev limiter, it's definitely a nice, mean sound. It's also muted, but still relatively aggressive. It just has that kind of classy German muscle car sound to it. Now, in terms of the cargo area, this is where, again, the RS6 Avant continues to be a really practical car because with the cargo area opened, you get up to 30 cubic feet of storage space back here. That's a good like 10 cubic feet more, I want to say, versus the RS7. So that's an easy reason to choose the Wagon over the RS7 Sportback. You can see underneath here, there isn't any kind of underfloor storage, but if you lift that up, you can see that's where you're going to find the storage there. You'll also find your fix-a-flat kit, so there's no temporary spare tire. If you fold down the seats, Audi didn't quote an actual total cargo space, but I'd estimate it's probably at least 50 cubic feet, maybe even up to almost 60 cubic feet. So again, if you want, the ultimate in terms of practicality, you don't want to drive an SUV, this is the reason why the RS6 Avant exists. So on the outside, the RS6 Avant continues to be a very beautiful car, and on the inside, this is where Audi didn't really need to make any changes to the vehicle. And as you can see, when you get inside, our test vehicle has a really nice color combination. It's got the cognac upgraded Napa leather interior. Now, this is included when you guys go for the executive package for, I believe, an extra $3,600. I love this kind of brown seats with the contrast stitching, the diamond quilting as well. These seats are also heated and ventilated. They adjust, and I believe, 14 different ways. You can also get a massage seat function, but you can't get the massage with this color combination, which I hate how Audi kind of limits you there. But overall, the interior definitely makes for a nice environment, and it's certainly a nice contrast from the kind of boring fluorescent silver exterior color. Now, as I shut the door, you can see the door has a really solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built off of the MLB Evo architecture. However, with the executive package, you can kind of just click the door and it has a soft close feature, which is what you expect when you're paying 6 figures for an expensive family wagon like this. Now, showing the key fob, you can see this is the current Audi Intelligent Access fob. You can see it has your usual buttons here for lock, remote open for the tailgate, unlock, and then there's also a panic function. No remote start from the fob. I don't know why Audi doesn't do that. They really should consider offering that, although I think if you're an owner, if you have access to the Audi app, you may be able to do it from there. But once you get inside, you can see the start-stop button is right here. Push that button and you can hear, because it's a mild hybrid system, you don't have the traditional starter noise. Instead, the engine just kind of whirs to life, and it has that nice deep growl that you really associate with a German muscle car, which I really appreciate. But overall, once I'm in this interior, you can see it's pretty similar to the pre-refreshed or the pre-updated version. You can see all RS6 Avants basically come with 3 digital displays. You have the 12.3-inch virtual cockpit display, which does have an updated look for the instrumentation. You can see the performance have that kind of white color look for the tachometer and the speedometer. You can also push a button here. You can kind of adjust the way that looks. You can go into your driver assistance. You can go into your phone and GPS function and put the GPS there. So that there is one of the best systems you're going to find. I love the customization there. In terms of the door panel materials, you can see with the executive package, you have the real leather stitching covering the upper portion here. You have this beautiful matte carbon fiber, which has the exposed weave, which you can actually feel when you're touching it. Feels really expensive. The aluminum trim for the door handle, for the buttons here, aluminum here. You have 2-person memory for the driver's side, which is nice. And then over here you can see padded armrests with suede Alcantara. The windows are also accented in metal, and they have that satisfying clicky noise that you associate with a lot of Audis, with a lot of Porsche vehicles. Down here on this lower area, it does have soft touch materials, and then my test car for an extra $6,000 also has the Bang & Olufsen premium sound with the pop-up tweeters in the actual dash. It's a really fantastic sounding audio system, although I have been experiencing some of the newer cars with their 4D systems, which have like a sub in the seats. That actually creates an even more immersive and listening experience. So this is still good. It just kind of shows how technology has continued to evolve. Now, in terms of the steering wheel, you can see it's got a really thick rim to it. It has beautiful perforated leather, contrast gray stitching, a flat bottom design. You have a power tilt telescoping adjustment for the wheel, which gives you a good amount of adjustability. Actual hard buttons here. You have paddles, shifters mounted to the steering wheel. I would prefer them to be mounted to the column. And a lot of the switchgear also has that typical high quality feel. The horn, it actually sounds pretty loud. The tone really says get out of my way when you need to honk at somebody. And there's also a heads-up display. The upper dash here has that same beautiful real leather with the contrast stitching, more of that exposed carbon fiber here that has a matte finish. I don't love the piano black plastic here. As you can see, there's also beautiful ambient lighting. And then you can see over here, you have 2 displays. So you have a 10.1-inch display here, which has Audi's MMI interface. They do have a newer software system and newer screens that they've just been recently introducing, in like the new Q5, for example, or the redesigned versions of the, I believe the A7 or something like that. But as you can see here, this does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can see my phone is connected now. It's perfectly fine, although the screen is starting to look a little bit small. At least the software works for the most part, but there are times where I noticed that it had trouble connecting to my phone. This system hasn't really changed much over the years. You have an 8.8-inch display down here, which allows you to basically adjust your climate functions. You have, I believe, tri-zone or quad-zone climate control functions. What this vehicle doesn't, however, is the perfume that wafts a scent into the cabin. I'm surprised that this vehicle is lacking that. Some of the bigger Audis like the A8 or S8 is going to offer that feature. You have your heated and cooled seat function also in the actual screen, which has also haptic feedback. You also have some quick shortcut buttons over here. Your drive mode selector is right here. You can see, cycle that. You have an auto, a comfort, and a dynamic mode. There's also an RS1 and an RS2 where you can kind of go and customize how you want this setting to be based on your specific taste. You can also access this by just pushing the RS button here, and that will bring up the even sportier drive mode there. You can hear it actually makes the engine even louder. It also revs it up a little bit higher. It shows you a really cool looking tack. So again, it really shows off the sporting potential of this vehicle. It's one of the reasons why the Audi RS, I guess the Audi RS division has such a big following. Now down here you can see there is a little bit of a lack of storage space, I noticed. Now first of all, this controls the 8-speed automatic. If I click the little trigger here, push it up, it goes into reverse to give you a full top-down 360 camera with a pretty decent resolution, quality, and graphics. You can see there's a full 360 mode where I can do a perimeter scan around the vehicle, although that wagon in the picture doesn't quite match the actual car that we have, but I love the graphics there. The screen, again, is starting to look a little bit on the smaller side. You can hear it also has that auto start stop system, which you can defeat by pushing a button here. I don't love the piano black plastic. As you can see, it shows dirt, smudges, and fingerprints and scratches pretty easily. You have cup holders here, but really, I would like to see more storage in this vehicle. I mean, obviously you have leather over here, a little bit of a storage net over here. This area looks nice. You also have a nice padded center console here, but when I open this up, you can see it's very narrow. In fact, my smartphone barely fits in here. You have 2 USB-C charging ports. You also have a wireless phone charging pad, but this is kind of where, again, some competitors do offer a little bit more storage solutions, so that's a little bit of a disappointment. Above me, you can see there's a big panoramic glass sunroof, which also does open up to let air and more light in, which is nice. It also goes into the back seat area. That's the biggest that it opens, so it's nice that at least it opens up. Some competitors don't even offer the feature where it allows you to vent air. And then in terms of the glove compartment, you can see it's pretty deep, actually. It goes right into the dash. It's damped and it's lined with felt. And then these seats, like I mentioned earlier, premium Napa leather, heated and ventilated, but not massaging. They are really comfortable and supportive, and they also hold you in place decently, although they could be even more aggressively bolstered. I feel like Audi almost left the bolstering less aggressive to make room for people with wider frames. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area so I can show you guys what that space is like. Now, in terms of the back seat, you can see Audi says you have around 37.5 inches of legroom back here. 37.5 is certainly a decent amount. As I get back here and shut the door, it also has the soft close feature and a really solid sounding thunk. The beautiful cognac leather carries over back here with the contrast stitching and the diamond quilting, which is nice. These seats back here are also heated. You can see there's a 3-level heated function back here. And as you can see, there is quad zone climate control, a really big hump over here for the middle passenger. And then you can see you have 2 USB-C charging ports, an actual 12-volt. You have power outlets back here, some storage. And then in terms of the door panels, you can see it has the same beautiful stitched leather, the matte carbon, the aluminum trim. You also have these manual retractable peasant blockers, which is also a nice touch, especially if you guys get the windows tinted. You also have more rear seat air vents here on the actual B pillar, which is great. In terms of the headroom space, you can see there is another glass panel here, although there's kind of like an intersection bar here that kind of breaks up the openness of it, but there's also a retractable shade if you don't want that. The seats themselves, you can see they do obviously give you the ability to fold them down, and it doesn't create a completely flat floor, as you can see, but it is, you know, great for practicality. These seats, sadly, they don't recline, so you basically just fold them up or down. And if you pull this down here, you can see there's an armrest with cup holders and a little bit more storage over here again, but not the deepest storage area. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see at 5'7", I do have a pretty good amount of headroom space. So if you do want to, you know, sell this to your spouse as a family vehicle, the RS6 Avant can certainly do so. So I do wish the road conditions were better, but that's kind of the case how it is in the Pacific Northwest, where it's kind of cool, damp, it's a little wet. We are on these summer performance tires, so we're not going to be able to do a 0 to 60 test. But thankfully, we actually just drove the RS7 Performance, which is essentially the same vehicle. And right off the bat, you're going to notice immediately just how, I guess, immense this car feels. It's really low, it's really wide. It feels like you're piloting around in something a lot more exotic, although it definitely looks exotic on the outside. But it still has, of course, the company's Quattro all-wheel drive system. Let's just quickly see how it does here when I do a really quick launch. So, oof. Yeah, it definitely gives you that little feeling in your stomach of tunnel vision, like you left your stomach back there, because this thing really is fast. I mean, Audi claims 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. Again, we got 3.05 in the RS7, and anytime you just kind of put your foot down, this thing just really just shoves you back hard in your seat. And again, it only has 621 horsepower. I say only, which is still a lot of power, but there are competitors like the new BMW M5 that's going to come out later this year that offers up to 770 plus horsepower. So that is very impressive performance, but the fact that this car doesn't have the plug-in hybrid aspect really just shows you how much of an overachiever this powertrain is. I mean, I have a feeling it's probably making more than the 621 that it claims. Audi did say that they've updated the steering feel, they've updated the sound deadening to where they've basically taken out almost 20 pounds of additional sound deadening. And you definitely get a feeling that this car feels a lot more visceral and mechanical. The steering still doesn't have quite the feedback that I would like it to have. This is where I imagine the BMW M5 Touring is probably going to be a little bit better in that regard, but this car also has their sport differential. It also has active rear wheel steering, and it really just makes this thing feel incredibly playful. Even though this is also a sub 5,000 pound wagon, it really puts the power down well. It has really amazing steering where it turns in really fast. The suspension feels nice and firm. We are on the adaptive air suspension as opposed to the fixed sport suspension. I haven't had a chance to drive that, but you can see even though this is a 5,000 pound wagon, it hides its weight extremely well, and I think that's going to surprise anybody who hasn't had a chance to drive one of these vehicles. It just really feels like a much smaller car when you put your foot down. It also has that nice charismatic V8 grumble that also doesn't sound overwhelming. It doesn't sound like obnoxious. It just sounds really muted and understated. And overall, I'm just impressed. This is definitely one of the more subdued vehicles to drive, but it also comes alive when you put it into the right drive mode. Now, you can also switch the drive mode into just like a normal or automatic or comfort setting. We'll go ahead and go into the auto setting here. And this is where you can essentially drive the RS6 Avant Performance in any kind of situation. It just has a softer ride when you put it into this mode. The steering gets a little bit lighter. The exhaust also gets a little bit quieter, which Again, reminds you that you're driving around in this really expensive six-figure luxury car. The ride really does get a lot smoother in this mode. The exhaust gets so quiet. And the visibility in this vehicle also is really good. I can see out of the front, the side, the rear quite nicely, although Audi doesn't offer a digital camera rearview mirror, which would be a nice addition to also have. The Germans, for some reason, just are against that. And then the seats in this vehicle, these are the RS Performance seats with the Nappa leather. The padding and cushioning feels really good, just like in the RS7. However, I am surprised that the bolstering is not more aggressive. It's almost like Audi was like, let's make them not quite as aggressive so that people of wider frames can fit better into this vehicle. Thankfully, on longer road trips, you're going to appreciate the seats. I just wish that I could get the massage seat function with this cognac leather. You have to, again, downgrade the seat to go for a more traditional looking seat with an adjustable head restraint and go for that kind of executive plus package or whatever to get the massaging seats. But overall, I did notice on the roads here in Portland, or just outside of Portland, there is a good amount of road noise coming in. The road noise is actually quite loud compared to the RS7 that I tested back home. Now, you guys are probably noticing the roads around here aren't the smoothest. There's a lot of gravelly-like material, and you just hear a ton of road noise coming in. Now, Audi did also remove about 20 pounds of sound deadening, so that's probably the reason why it's also a little bit louder than I expected. So keep that in mind. If you guys prefer a quieter, softer ride, you may want to seek out a non-performance version, which you technically can't buy for 2024 or 2025. And then in terms of the fuel efficiency, I had a chance to test an RS7 back home, and I believe that was getting just under 20 mpg in mixed driving, mid-20s on the highway. Obviously, this has been driven around by videographers and media that have been literally putting their foot down all the time, so this thing's been averaging around 11 mpg, which is not great. You could theoretically do a little over 300 miles of range on this car if you want to drive it really conservatively, which you can. I mean, this car and its dual personalities really make you feel like you spent a good chunk of money, but it was worth it because it does give you the ability to put this thing into Sport Plus mode, find your favorite back road, but at the same time you can put it into comfort mode, and it's basically an all-out luxury car. And it's one of the reasons why a vehicle like this is so sought after for enthusiasts, because it gives you that dual personality where you can drive it hard on back roads or on a track, or you can also drive it to work every day. You can take it on long road trips, and you also have plenty of room for people and all their stuff. So I've been fortunate enough to spend some time with the RS6 and of course its sister vehicle, the RS7 as well. And I have to say, both of these two vehicles are some of the most well-rounded performance cars that money can buy. I mean, yes, you could always buy a faster vehicle that, looks a little bit more exotic, that only seats two, that's far less practical, but there's something about a high-performance wagon that's just so incredibly enticing. As you guys saw, the new V8 engine, which is, somewhat new, is one of the best performing internal combustion engines that you can buy, delivering over 620 horsepower now. And while we sadly can't really do a 0 to 60 test out here because it's super wet and slippery outside, we did manage to do that in the RS7 Performance, which it did it in just over 3 seconds. I imagine this car should be roughly the same because remember, the two vehicles weigh about the same. They have the same transmission, the same engine, so performance should be very similar. In terms of the ride quality with the air suspension, even though we're on these big 22-inch wheels, it actually has a really agreeable and comfortable ride, but it gets fun when you find some twisty roads because of the updates that Audi has made to the steering, to the suspension system. They reduced the unsprung weight of the wheels, and they also just made the vehicle feel a lot more visceral and mechanical. So that's something that a lot of people were criticizing about the RS6 Avant when it first came out. So it's great to see that Audi has kind of addressed that and made this car even more visceral and even more fun to drive, which is something that, again, the old one didn't really need. But this new one, again, just kind of takes it to the next level. The backseat is also very usable. The cargo area is also great. I mean, really, if you guys are trying to decide between this and the RS7, I personally would go with this model because it's actually cheaper. That's right. This car is around $2,000 cheaper versus the RS7 Performance, which starting at a price of $125,800 is certainly not a cheap proposition. And that's why I said at the beginning, if money is no object, this should definitely make it to the very top of your list. Now, my test car does have a pretty good amount of options on it, around $25,000 worth of options to be said. Basically, the most expensive is the matte carbon package for around $8,000, followed by the Bang & Olufsen stereo for an extra $6,000. So all in with destination, this particular car comes in at around $149,950. That's right, 150 grand is definitely a lot of money, but keep in mind that if you're looking at something like a Porsche Panamera Cross Turismo or Sport Turismo, that's going to come in at over $200,000. Whenever Mercedes-AMG comes out with the new E63S Wagon, that should also probably be around 10 to 15 grand more expensive. The big competitor that just came out that I should be driving later this year is actually going to be the BMW M5 Touring. If you can believe it, the BMW has an extra 100 more horsepower, 150 more horsepower than this, and it also is a plug-in hybrid with electric only range, and that's going to start at $4,000 cheaper. That's right, $4,000 cheaper than the Audi, so that's going to be the biggest rival. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that new BMW and driving it. But until then, if you guys can't wait for the Beamer, you don't like the styling, if you want to put these at the very top of your list, I wouldn't fault you, because it is still one of the best performance vehicles that money can buy. And it also happens to be a really practical family wagon. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024, Audi RS6 Avant. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.